All right, the next question is from Josh Williams. He wants to know my opinion on the Anthony Smith Glover Teixeira fight, and if I thought it was a good stoppage or not. This one I want to take a long time to answer because I didn't see the fight when he asked me the question, so I had to look it up, and I wanted to watch the fight just to make sure I gave it, an accurate opinion of what I saw. And what I saw, it wasn't as bad as what I was reading about on the internet. Chael Sonnen was blowing up on his YouTube page, talking about how disgraceful the cornermen were. I saw some other people. Sean Salmon, who is a former UFC fighter, really good wrestler, was talking about how that wasn't the sport that he remembers. It didn't depict the sport that he loves and all this and all that. I'm a little hardcore, okay? I want to tell you for the people that don't know me super well, I want you to know, I'm a fighter. I was a professional fighter, okay? I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, okay? I've reffed, okay, MMA fights. I was a ref for the state of Ohio, and I was a judge for the state of Ohio, okay? So I've done, and I've also coached. So I've coached guys, okay, in MMA fights. I've coached professionals and amateurs in MMA fights. So my opinion comes from me doing every one of those jobs that was going on last night, and especially my opinion as a fighter. I've had my I heard Anthony got his teeth knocked out. I got a tooth knocked. I got one of my bottom tooths missing from fighting. It got knocked loose, and it was loose for years. And I bit into some freaking cold chocolate, a big thick piece of cold chocolate, and that finished it off. But it got knocked loose and all retarded from fighting. I've had my orbital bone busted to pieces to where I almost lost my eye. I got scars all over my face. Girls have fucking called me names and said I look like I lost a fight against a lawnmower. I got a torn labrum in my shoulder. That's what was torn that I was talking about earlier. I got a torn labrum. I broke my ankle in fights. I've been knocked out. I've had all those things happen in different fights, whether Anthony Smith, it all happened in one fight. But I want to talk about the job of the coach, okay? Your coaches and your cornermen, okay? This is how I would corner people, okay? It's your job to get the guy ready to fight, okay? You've been training, preparing them for this fight. So your guy's in shape. He's ready for the fight. And Anthony Anthony Smith was the favorite in the fight. From the betting odds and stuff, he was favored to win. So as soon as and it looked like Anthony Smith, in my opinion, definitely won the first round. The second round, it could have went either way. I could see someone giving it to Glover, or I could see it going to Smith. So after the second round, it was a good possibility that Smith was up 10-9 in each one of those rounds, okay? So after 2 rounds, there's 3 more to go. But as a cornerman, okay, the first thing I do is when the guy comes back to the corner, whether he won that round or not, I say, how do you feel? You feel good or, anything wrong? I say to you, how do you feel? And then they'll answer. They usually say good. Fighters usually say good. I try to talk to my guys when I fight, say, look, you need to be completely honest with me when I'm working your corner. When I ask you, are you okay? You need to tell me, does your hand hurt? Did you break your foot? And I'm watching the fight, and I can see stuff that, from watching so many fights, I've been in 60 MMA fights and over 500 street fights, and I can't imagine how many fights I've watched. I probably have watched tens of thousands of fights. So I can pick up on stuff that I can see that maybe the average person can't see. Like for example, I think whatever that little guy was that just fought the other day and retired, he beat Dominic Cruz, Henry Cejudo. I think he hurt his leg in that fight. I can't remember what round, the first or second round, but I think he hurt his leg in that fight, and I picked up on that. So I'll watch my guy fight, and when he comes back to the corner, I'll say, hey, are you okay? How you feel? And, usually, generally speaking, I feel good, I'm okay. So if they say that and I think I saw something, I'd be like, how's your foot? It looks like maybe you sprained your ankle. Did you break your foot out there? If they're not throwing a punch big time, I'll say, did you break your hand? How's your right hand feel? And they'll tell me, yeah, it hurts, blah, blah, blah. It's this, that, and the other thing. So now I know what's wrong with my fighter. So that's the first thing I want to find out. When they come back to the corner, I want to find out how they feel and if something's hurt, okay? If you won the round, it's a little tough, okay? You almost just tell them, okay, just keep doing what you're doing. You might tell him to make some adjustments. Maybe he's being real repetitive with, you're only throwing one punch. Let's mix it up. Come on, you got to throw more than one punch. Let's start throwing, 2, 3, and 4 jabs at a time. After you throw the right hand, let's follow it up with that cleanup hook, okay? So start throwing that left hook after that right hand. You want to tell them just some small things to make some adjustments, okay? There's really not much. You won the round. Just keep doing what you're doing. But hey, it looks like you're doing this, this, and this. Let's do more of this. Let's do more of that. If you lost the round, okay, there's a lot more instruction that you can give to somebody because now they're doing a lot wrong, and you kind of saw what the guy was doing to your fighter, so you can help them make adjustments so it doesn't happen in the next round. Okay, and another thing too is you got to be honest with your fighter. Another thing I do is you got to be honest. When they come back, I'm going to tell them if I thought they won that round or not. They got to know where they're at on the scorecards. Are they up or down? You got to know, because if they're down and it's a third round, it's a 3-round fight, and you were telling them that they did a good job, you won that round, they're not going to, the third round, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing when they really need to make something happen. They need to finish them. They need to hit a submission. They need to knock the person out, so they need to do something. So after you find out how they're feeling, if anything's hurt, you tell them if you think they won or lost that round. If it was about even, I'll tell them, I was like, that was a close one. That one could have won either way. So just for safety concern, let's just assume we lost that one, okay? So right now, we're up a round, or it's even, whatever, depending on how many rounds we're at. Ask them if they want some water, blah, 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 you know what I mean? Check them out, and then, get them back out into the fight. Next round, you come back, you do the same thing, okay? The corners didn't do anything wrong in that fight. They did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. It's, in my opinion, it's not the corner's job to throw in the towel. If my fighter came back in the round and I said, hey, how you feeling? They're like, oh man, I think I broke my nose, I broke my hand. I'd be like, are you all right? Can you keep fighting? If they say I'm not sure, I was like, hey, we got like 30 seconds to make a decision. I have no problems throwing in a towel if my fighter comes back to me and tells me he's not feeling good. Okay, something's wrong with him. Okay, I think I broke my forearm. I think I broke my hand. I'll say, hey, do you want to keep going? If they say I'm not sure, I'm going to ask them maybe one more time. Be like, you got to tell me. Do you want to keep going? And if they say they're not sure, boom, I'll throw in the towel, no problem at all. But if they say, yeah, I think my hand's broke, but I'm all right. I want to keep going. I think I can win this, yada, yada. I can do this. Okay, no problem, okay? And the ref in that fight did a perfect job, okay? I think his last name was Herzog or something like that. He did an amazing job. He was telling Anthony Smith, hey, you got to defend yourself. He was paying attention. Anthony, yeah, he didn't look too good, okay, because he was getting busted up, okay, but he was defending himself, and he was still trying to win that fight, and at the end, he was smart. He knows that he was getting beat up standing up, so he let the guy take him down, so now he's just getting hit with arm punches, so the punches ain't as strong. He was working some triangles in the guard, maybe looking for an arm bar. I thought Anthony Smith was still in it and could pull it off. I know from my experiences, man, I've had promoters beg me to quit fighting, because I was bleeding so bad or whatever, or was hurt, and I always thought that, I could find a way to win. I thought, especially, that's what I love about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as I feel like, there's always a chance for me to catch him making a mistake on the ground. If it's on the ground, I'm not getting hit as hard because it's really just arm punches, and I can pull something out. I broke my orbital bone really bad in my last fight. I got hit with, I think it was like 130 elbows in my right eye, man. I got busted up, and I got back to the corner. George Gurgel was working my corner, okay? And, he asked me, he did the same thing. He's like, how you feeling? I told him, I was like, I can't see. He's like, I think he might even ask me if I want to keep going. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can win this fight. I said, I can win this fight. And, the doctors came over and checked me out. I couldn't see. And they told me that they were going to, put up some fingers in front of my face. And I had to tell them how many fingers were in front of me. I couldn't see. I promise you, I couldn't. I had no idea what they were sticking up in front of me. Thank God I had George in the corner, because he had his hand on the back of my neck and head. And if they held up 2 fingers, he'd tap my head twice, and I would say 2. If they held up 4 fingers, he'd go doom, 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 doom. He'd tap the back of my head 4 times, and I would say 4. That was awesome. I didn't know he was going to do that. I just picked up on it, because as soon as they put the fingers in my face, he started tapping, and I couldn't see at all. I couldn't see. I had no idea. How many fingers they were holding up, and Mark Matheny was reffing that fight, and, thank God he was reffing it, because anybody else would have stopped it, and that shit fucking pisses me off. I feel like anybody can be beat with the right game plan, and shit goes wrong, but, there's always they're going to make a mistake, and I just feel like I'm going to find that mistake, okay? Obviously, I didn't find that mistake in that last fight, because I lost the decision, but, I was happy. Hindsight being 2020, you would think, oh, I wish someone would have stopped it. But you know what? If I lost my eye, I don't give a shit, dude. That's what I was doing. That's what I was doing. I'll die in there, and I wouldn't care. I always thought that, and I probably still think this. This is probably where I'm a little different than most people. But I always thought that if I died in the cage, I feel like I died doing what I love. You know what I mean? What better way to die than doing something that you love? And I feel like the ref's job is to protect the fighters, okay? That's the referee's job. And I feel like that Herzog guy did exactly that, because at the end, I believe Anthony got mounted, or he got his back taken, and he took about 8 to 10 unanswered shots, and he wasn't really making a good effort to recover from that position, and he stopped it. It was in the 5th round, he stopped it. That ref did the perfect job, and he was paying attention to Anthony Smith. He was paying attention. I thought the ref did a good stoppage. I don't think that anyone should be mad at the corner people for not stopping it. Those corner people did exactly what they were supposed to do. Okay, Anthony Smith wanted to fight. He was doing good, and he stood a chance. He was still trying to win. He was trying to throw up triangles and all kinds of shit. So it was a good stoppage. And but that's my long-winded opinion on what the cornerman's job is. It's not the cornerman's job to stop a fight unless the fighter wants him to. It's your job to instruct him how to win. What he's doing wrong, correct what he's doing wrong, make adjustments, study what the guy's doing that he's fighting, and come up with a game plan between rounds to help him win the fight. That's what the cornerman's job is. Okay, the referee's job is to stop fights. I'm going to add this. I remember, because I'd let them guys fight. When I was a referee, I'd let them fight, even amateurs, man. Hey, look, if you're intelligently defending yourself, I don't care how bad you're getting your ass whooped. But the athletic commission is there for fighter safety, okay? That's like, their number one priority. I remember this one time I was reffing this guy. He was getting beat up pretty good, and but he was defending himself, and I thought he had his wits about him. He was a tough kid, and I thought he was doing good. He just got in a bad position, got hit a bunch of times, and then there's like a head athletic commission guy there. It wasn't Bernie Perfato. He's like the head of the whole commission, but there's like the boss guy of the athletic commission at every fight. And the boss guy looked at me, and I could hear, he said, Dan, that's enough. So he knew that, he wanted me to stop it. I thought it was okay. I stopped it because he's my boss, and that's, I did what he told me to do. And then afterwards, I wanted to make sure I wasn't in trouble. So I'm like, hey, I thought he was defending himself. That's why I didn't stop it right away. He's like, no, he was defending himself, but he was getting hit with too many shots, and, I just thought he had enough. I was like, okay, just making sure, So, those athletic commission guys, they'll talk to the refs too and say, hey, or between rounds, they'll be like, hey, if that guy gets in that position again and starts taking, 5, 6 unanswered shots, I want you to stop it. So they'll direct the refs if they feel like they're letting it go a little bit too long. So there's more than just the ref that's looking out for the safety of a fighter, okay? That whole athletic commission is there looking after that fighter's safety, okay? So I really just don't feel like it's the corner's job to do it. And there's so many fights that get stopped early where everyone's like, that was fucking bullshit, blah, blah, blah. So the ref is going to stop it. If it's really that bad, the ref is going to stop it, believe me. The ref is going to jump in and stop the fight if you need to be. So the corner doesn't have to worry about that because they stop fights early all the time. So the cornerman doesn't have to do that. Their job is to help you win the fight and make sure you're all right between rounds. All right, so that's that question.